What's going on, everybody? Gary here from Killer Off-Road Hobbies with another full review and my thoughts video. Today we are going to be focusing on the Hobao Hyper MT Sport Plus. Whew, that's a long name. So this is a 1/8 scale twin vertical plate chassis 4-wheel drive monster truck. This was an 80% kit that I got and basically put my own electronics in it. I messed with it. I put a couple different systems in it. I've had a few issues. I've had a few very fun times with this thing, so we're going to go over that in this review video. I'm going to tell you kind of what you get with this thing, how the setup is, my experience with it, and at the end of this video I will tell you whether I would recommend this truck or not. So let's dive in. Alright, so like I said, this is a 1/8 scale 4-wheel drive monster truck. It does come with these huge meat tires, this very cool looking body. I got lucky, I don't know how, but when I found the 80% kit that I got, it came with this colored body. Most of the times, if you find this 80% kit, this does come as a ready to run, just as a note. But if you do find the 80% kit like I got, most of the time it's going to have a clear body and you will have to paint it yourself. Alright, so moving on from that. We'll pop the body off right now. What I did with this body was I reinforced it with Gorilla Tape. It is held up pretty well. I did cut this little hole out of the back window right here to get some air to the ESC and motor. I did have a few cracks from that, but I did repair it with hot glue. That seems to be holding up pretty well. It kind of looks a little funky, but yeah, it works. Hot glue works, by the way. Other than that, the body is held up very well. I've crashed this thing pretty hard, and I've just got a few cracks in it, in spots where I actually had to cut it for stuff. But other than that, the body is held up extremely well. I think it looks pretty cool. It's a cool looking truck. It's based off like a newer body styled Ford. Yeah, I think it's a good decent body, but like I said, you will, if you get the 80% kit, you will probably have to paint it yourself. So coming to the truck, it's a little dirty. It's been bashed pretty hard. It's been crashed pretty hard. It's been broken, and I've repaired it. We will go over that. But as I said, you do get these huge meat tires. I do like these tires. They balloon pretty bad. They don't have the greatest of grip, but they're huge, and I like it because of that. But they are decent tires. With the ballooning and everything, you can take steps to combat that. The tires are not mounted when you get this kit, so you do have to glue them yourself. So if you wanted to, you could Gorilla Tape the inside or whatever you want to do to stop them from ballooning if that's your prerogative. Me, I don't mind ballooning. I'm not really a speed guy, and ballooning just kind of helps with backflips, so I like doing backflips. Other than that, this thing comes very, very adjustable with huge components for the most part, and all in all, I think it's a pretty good setup. As I did say, it is a twin vertical plate chassis, kind of like a HPI Savage, just not the same design. It does have the side-mounted battery trays, huge, comically huge actually, receiver box up here, because they use the same receiver box for the nitro version and the electronic version, so you would have to run your receiver pack and everything in here if it was the nitro version. I've had very good luck with this for the most part, durability wise. The shock towers are plastic, but they are very tough. It does not come with this wheelie bar, so that's just a heads up. I did buy this aftermarket. Your camber and toe is adjustable front and rear with these adjustable camber links and turnbuckles on both sides. The shocks are aluminum threaded bodied and seem to be good enough for me. We will talk about those a little bit more Basically, it's just a well set up truck, highly adjustable, at a decent price. You can get this for about 380 bucks as the 80% kit, and the ready to run truck with a 2000 kV motor and 150 amp ESC with a transmitter and everything is, I think, 520. All right, so since I've told you a little bit about that, I will tell you a little bit about what I did with this truck, my experiences with it, and then we will get into whether I would recommend this or not. So, at first I tried a lower KV motor in here with a different ESC. I found that to not be enough. This truck, with the spur it runs and the gearing of this truck, it tends to be geared pretty low. So this truck is geared pretty low. So I jumped up the pinion to an 18 tooth right now. I think I'm running on a 2200 kV motor on with the Castle Sidewinder 1A scale system, and I like this truck now. This is a perfect speed. I've had good temps with this and everything. So the setup I'm running right now is well, I think this 6S capable Sidewinder system is perfect for this truck. As far as the steering servo, I went with the stock servo for this thing from Hobao, and I found that to be not very good. If you do get this 80% kit, I would highly recommend not getting that steering servo. It's weak, it's slow, it's not very good. I've just kind of been stubborn and I haven't taken it out. Other than that, I mean, everything else comes in the kit. Besides, you do have to run your own radio and receiver. Whatever you want to run. I'm running my FSGT 3B in this thing from FlySky. Seems to work fine for me. What I did do is, it was highly recommended to get this chassis plate right here. It's just a reinforcement plate. I think it was 35 bucks. But it fits right in there. It's got the holes in the chassis to go ahead and mount it up. This will help your chassis from buckling. So I do highly, highly recommend that. Also, I want to give a shout out to Francisco. Thank you, buddy. He sent me a torque limiter kit for this thing. I have not put it in yet. I just haven't had the time. Stuff's been pretty crazy. But I would highly recommend that as well, because this thing is just direct drive. There's no slip in anything on this. It's just the power goes from your motor to your transmissions, to your transmission to your diffs. There is no give in there. So I would highly recommend getting one of those and putting it in here. I know the price on this with that chassis plate and the torque limiter kit starts creeping this thing up close to $600, but I do think if you get this truck, I do think you should get both of those upgrades for sure. So other than that, I've had a relatively pretty good experience with this truck. You know, I have beat on this hard. It has held up pretty well. So let's get into the pros and cons of this thing. So one of the pros is that this thing is built tough. I will give it that. This thing is, the A-arms, I mean, you can see the A-arms. They are super, super thick. The shocks are nice and stout. The tires are big and squishy. You know, that just helps with shock absorption. It does have this nice reinforcing tower in the middle to keep everything from caving in. You know, to kind of reinforce your body and to stop top impacts from just destroying your ESC and all that stuff. So as far as durability wise, for the most part on this truck, I mean, the knuckles are big and beefy. You know, this thing is just pretty beefy. The chassis is pretty stout. I mean, I haven't had a problem. I've seen people having problems. Vaz from Aussie RC Playground, he had the OFNA version of this where he like just bent the whole chassis, kind of tacoed it. But with this reinforcing plate, that can't happen. So that's why I recommend that. Um, so all in all, the design of this truck, I will say, is a positive, is a pro. Now, a couple cons I'm gonna go over to just kind of, because it is kind of part of the design of this truck. One con is that the suspension does not let the chassis bottom out. If you run smaller tires, the chassis will actually bottom out, and they do sell a kit that allows you. It's got like longer shock shafts and stuff like that. It does allow this thing to bottom out, but as it sits right now, this thing will not bottom out. The chassis will not bottom out, and that's bad because that puts all the shock, instead of being absorbed through the chassis and everything, all the shock goes through your shocks into the shock tower, which is not good. But these big puffy balloony tires do absorb a lot of shock themselves. So if you run these tires the way it's set up, you should be okay. I mean, I've aired this thing out pretty decent and I haven't had a problem, but it's just a con that the chassis doesn't bottom out, because it's just asking for trouble. So another con about this thing is that they don't make the stock parts anymore. The what I'm talking about, I mean, they do make the stock A-arms and everything. What I'm talking about is the drive shafts and the diff gears. You can't get the stock ones. Like, if you break a drive shaft on this truck, you have to replace the output cups for the diffs, and you have to replace both of your drive shafts. I just think that's ridiculous to discontinue stock components and make people have to upgrade. I just think that's crazy. I think that's a huge con to me, like huge con. Um, Going back to a positive, just the truck. The truck is good. I mean, it's designed pretty well. It is durable for sure. The one breakage I had was a drive shaft, and that's because I was lazy and I sat there and it was upside down, and I forward reverse until it caught, and I full throttled it to pull it back on its tires, and I ended up breaking a drive shaft in the front. But that became a huge headache because I had to pull this thing basically completely apart. Cost me about $70, and it was just kind of a nightmare. So, getting to my thoughts part of this. Would I recommend this truck? I would have to say at your own risk. If you know how to work on RCs and you're comfortable with pulling the diff out, pulling the diff out, pulling the diff completely apart, like tearing it down, and then putting new diff cups in it and putting it all back together. If you know how to work on RCs and you're okay with spending, $140 to replace the front and rear drive shafts, I'd say this truck is probably a go for you. It is tough. It is very durable. As far as a basher, I think this thing is good. I think it is a good basher. It has good, strong components. It's very adjustable. It's big. It's beefy. You'll be recognized out there. I mean, you can't really miss this thing. When it starts going, it makes noise. The tires whine. I mean, it's pretty impressive to see this thing driving around. As far as value to cost, I think there is better out there for how much it will cost you to get this thing set up well. So as far as that, I'm not going to recommend this truck. I actually am pretty disappointed in Hobao for just discontinuing the stock parts. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that instead of spending 20 bucks to buy a set of drive shafts, you have to buy output cups. You know, have to buy all new shafts. I mean, they are bigger and beefier, yes, so it is definitely an upgrade, but you know, instead of being like, oh man, I broke a shaft, you know, I gotta pull the old shaft out and put a new one in, 20 bucks, you know, maybe 30 bucks, you're looking at 70 bucks. It's just, it is what it is. And you have to tear the diff apart all the way down to nothing, you know, just parts everywhere, and then put it back together. So for that, this truck is going to get, I'd say, one thumb down. I do like the setup. I like the components. I like how tough it is, but I just can't get over that. There is no reason I can think of for a company to discontinue stock parts on a vehicle they still sell, and force you to buy upgrades. Like, I can't get over that. I will not let that go, and that is so uncool in my book that this truck is literally getting a thumbs down, even though I have a lot of fun bashing it, because I think that's unforgivable for a company. Like, I can't get over that. I look at me, I'm rambling about it because it upsets me. Other than that, buy at your own risk. That's what I'm going to say about this truck. You've seen it bash on my channel. Look it up, decide for yourself. But for me, it's a no-go. I think there's better out there. Might not be as beefy looking, but there's definitely better out there for what it's going to cost you to buy this truck, to set this truck up, and upgrade if you break something. That's going to be my 2 cents on this thing. Please thumb up this video if you liked it. Thumbs down if you didn't. Stay tuned to Killer Off-Road Hobby. Subscribe if you're new here. Check out that description. There's a lot of cool stuff down there. Become a patron. Help the channel out. And get rewards for doing so. You know, you get first dibs on any RCs that I sell. You know, it just kind of helps out the channel. And I do tend to kind of drift more towards, if somebody that is a Patreon ask me to review something, I kind of look at it a little bit harder than if somebody just randomly comments, because they are helping support the channel. So that's going to be it. Thank you for stopping by Killer Off-Road Hobbies. I'm Gary, saying get out there, get an RC, go have some fun, and we'll see you right back here on the next video. Until then, peace.